that you are imperfect, like you understanding that you are imperfect, accepting yourself as a person, as a professional, as CEO, as whatever, that you are imperfect, and that however hard you try, you're never gonna see perfection.
Hello and welcome to Turn Off, Turn On Ventures. My name is Jia Hong and I am here at Campus X in Sofia, Bulgaria with Vassil. He is managing partner at 11 Ventures. He is a successful entrepreneur with exits. He is someone that many look up to in the industry here, and honestly one of the best conversations I've had so far. Thank you so much for having me again.
Thank you for having me as a guest.
I really enjoyed our own conversation the last time.
Should have captured it on video.
Yeah, I know. No, but it was good to meet you in person, get to know you, and I'm very glad we get to share this time now. We're going to go straight into it, or maybe in one sentence to summarize who you are.
All right.
And what you do today.
Okay, so my name is Vassil Terziev. I am a managing partner at 11 Ventures. Before turning my hobby into my profession and becoming an institutional investor, I was an active angel investor and served as CEO of Telerik, the company I co-founded in 2002, which we exited to Progress Software in 2014. And then I stayed for a few years with Progress as Chief Innovation Officer, and then I joined the venture capital world. So that's it in a nutshell. Passionate about entrepreneurship, about education, and using those two levers as drivers to create a healthier society.
I wanted to go deep into this investment world because that's a space that we are both in. And yourself, you've made angel investments, pre-seed investments with 11. Important question. What's something you look for at this stage?
Yeah. So the two main things we look for is really to understand the market in which the company, the startup's trying to play. What is the big market? What is the smaller segment that they've identified, the problems there, the people that have those problems, to really understand the ideal customer profile so that we can make an assessment of whether there's a big enough of a market and whether there's clarity around the immediate beachhead market. And the other thing that we're looking for, other than a clear beachhead market or a thesis about it, it doesn't need to be proven, but there needs to be some hypothesis about the beachhead market. We need a big market so that we know we can build a big winner. The other thing we look for is the team. Like, how long have they known each other? Have they worked together? Are they proficient in the domain? Do they have the qualities we look for? Is it a balanced team in terms of the different functions, so that you have people who cover more or less all the key facets of building a company? Because one thing we found consistently is that people who have specific personal skills coupled with a few things that make them a good team in a good market, they'll figure it out. So the only thing there is really how much of a runway they need to prove the key hypotheses, and that's when we come in. We just try to give those great teams and great markets the necessary runway to get to the next one or two major milestones. That's more or less our life and worldview simplified.
Yeah. And conversely, this is what you look for. What are red flags?
Yeah. So red flags many, but the things that we look for on a personal level amongst entrepreneurs is things that you can very hardly cultivate from one age onwards, and it's things like working hard. You either learn the value of working hard early on in life or not. Curiosity. Many people lose it, unfortunately, at a young age, but you have to be curious. You have to explore the world. You need to unlearn as quickly as you learn. You need to be able to read the signals of the universe, meaning how do you turn the adversity that always hits you as you try to build a business into a course correction, something that really helps you do better. Resilience. And resilience is more or less a function of the mission. What makes you want to solve the problems that you're trying to solve today for the world? The more committed the founding team is to that, the bigger the resilience. And if you have resilience, you can withstand many of the challenges that come your way. If you turn them into lessons learned, then you become much smarter very, very quickly. Add to that the things that always help, which is what we discussed earlier: balanced team, integrity, expertise, functional, and within the domain. And then you have the ingredients of a successful company. We also like to back teams. We don't really like single founders. Not because people are bad, but just because the level of risk is much higher. And I, as an entrepreneur, know how fortunate I was to have 3 co-founders, extremely different as personalities, but all united around one goal, learning from each other, stepping on each other's shoulders in the things we do well, and mitigating the things we don't do well. So creating this environment where everybody's the best version of themselves.
It's a lot to look into at the early stage, and I think over time you kind of build an instinct for what feels good, and then of course then to verify that exists. At the pre-seed stage, at angel stage, where some things are not that firm and not that concrete, not everything is considered an important thing. What are some things that you think are less important at such an early stage?
Definitely numbers. Numbers are very overrated, because when a company comes to us with a financial projection, I know it's going to be wrong, and I don't care about the nominals. What myself, other partners in the investment team will look for is really the logic on how the model was built, because we primarily test the assumptions more so than the end result. So what we try to identify is how the founder thinks, what's the logical connection between the different elements, and then to work on iteratively on fixing those things, the inputs that lead to the outputs that we collectively want to see. So that's one thing. The other thing is perhaps that's also more overrated. Sometimes is domain expertise.
Okay.
Well, judging from our own experience, neither of us as founders had any clue about developer tools. We had never built a business. We had never built a developer tools business. Managed to create a world leader in a few years. So domain expertise is really important, but it's not central, because sometimes you carry all the baggage from knowing the domain inside out. And there are mechanisms by which you can compensate, like you listening a lot more to people who are domain experts, to customers, to prospects, and really building the systems to collect all of that information, make good use of it, prioritize, put into a backlog, operationalize that knowledge, and then it's about managing the inflow of information coming from domain experts, and you don't have to be the person who knows everything inside out. Again, it helps, but I see it as not the most central thing. The most central thing is really the quality of the team and the market, the quality and size of the market. Everything else people can figure out.
Great.
There's one very memorable experience when our investors they connected me to one of their most successful CEOs, a person who had run multiple public companies, who had many exits on his belt, probably 7, 8 technology companies. And in a conversation we had, he said, "Can you imagine that I've run public technology companies and I'm more or less technologically literate. I was like, how does that work? And he said, well, it works because I'm really good at understanding people, at creating an environment where people who do know the domain, who are great at what they do, can shine. And I create that environment, I set the right goals, I manage conflicts in the right way, I resource properly their strategy, and more or less that's how I've seen success. I'm just good at enabling other people who are better at me in what they do. And this to me was very revealing in terms of how you can create value for the company without you being the smartest person in the domain, in the room.
This is a bit of an extension question, but and also a bit of coming from me as I listen to you. There must be so much variation in all the early stage startups that you meet, even out of the context of 11, but as an angel investor. How much does gut feeling go into your decision making?
I don't think there's a straightforward answer. I guess it depends definitely on the person, because some people are more intuitive, others are a lot more logical in how they assess people, businesses. I put myself in the people who are more emotional, more who rely more on their gut and who have to learn to trust the other things like data and back the gut with the necessary intellectual homework. But even if you are not this type of person, you do develop pattern recognition. So you quickly, even if it's not your gut but your logic, you start identifying the different flaws pretty quickly in terms of what's missing to the more or less sauce.
Yeah, definitely.
When you've done hundreds of investments, it happens very quickly. It very quickly becomes a binary, pretty binary, yes or no. But all of us would tend to drag it a little bit longer just to be convinced in our decision. But really, the decision comes very quickly most of the times.
Amazing. Now to get to
that you know is something that I've seen over and over, that as much as people see investors as those cold-hearted, super pragmatic people who do their Excels and like have zero EQ, the reality is that people do get emotional. They make many decisions based on emotion, including fear of missing out, in terms of being tricked into falling for a founder who just worked on your weak spots, etc. So we do fall prey to our instincts.
That's a good shout.
I always remember a saying by another investor, Reed Christian from CRV, who said that VCs operate in only two modes. No, and please. So yeah.
Oh, that's very telling.
Yeah, it's one of the things which takes a lot of hard work as a VC. That you start having like a forward-looking strategy, a thesis-based approach, rather than gut-oriented. I like this, I like that. Fund A, B, C, Angel, D, E, F are there, so I'm gonna jump in. That's one way of doing investment. The other one is not caring who's in, and really you having good reasons and the thesis why you want to go in a specific company, you having expert knowledge in the domain and being convinced without the external factors.
Yeah. This is making me think also about how to build a team, not just as a startup but as an investment team. and
It's
how
all the same.
important it is.
It's all the same. You,
Yeah.
you really need a great team, and you have the same dynamics. Is it about me as the star CEO or star partner, or is it about building an extremely strong team where you essentially aspire for everybody to be equal or better than you, given enough time? Because our collective understanding of the partnership at 11 is that we want to see the young people on our team to be much better than we are in what they do. If we do that, that means we've done a good job. In addition, of course, to making the proper returns, because that's how we get judged. But really, the other thing which really matters to us is about building a phenomenal team, because it's also interrelated. The stronger your team is, and the more it does not rely on a single star hero, on a single star investment, but really you have embedded excellence, pursuit of excellence in everything you do, the higher your chances of creating the outcomes that your LPs hope to see.
Yeah, for people on the behind the screen, you can probably see the smile on my face. And one thing I really enjoy and appreciate is how clear you are in not just the thought process, but in communicating it. And this is somewhere that you can help me with. So I've been here in Sofia in Bulgaria for almost 2 weeks now. First time visiting, and my approach is to jump in the deep end, meet people and try to connect the dots. But here I think you could probably share a lot of thoughts and opinions about your country.
As a highly unbiased person, of course.
Yeah, well, completely objective. I mean, that's yeah. How would you describe the space, the ecosystem?
I'm very proud of what we've collectively been able to build. All the VCs, entrepreneurs, NGOs, people from all kinds of walks of life and organizations, because when we were building a company and were fundraising, we had zero idea about venture capital, about ecosystems, no knowledge, nothing. Today, when you fast forward 15 years, it's a thriving ecosystem. You have the best, the most developed venture capital financing machinery in Southeastern Europe. You have amazing cohorts of companies, including our first official unicorn, many unicorns in the making. And what really matters is the quality of the companies and the ethos of all those people, that they look at it as a community, that they try to share their success with others, that any breakthrough that one organization, or company, person makes really becomes available to all the others. And that gives me hope that in the next years we'll see it blossoming. So all the foundations are there, as we spoke with you. The forest has been planted, it's giving fruit, but it's gonna get better and better in terms of yields, and more importantly, it has the right culture. So in the long term, hopefully it will grow even more exponentially, just because of the level of integration, because of the mechanisms for knowledge collection, sharing. I'm a big optimist, and I see Bulgaria as really a gem. It hasn't gotten as much attention as I believe it deserves, but it's on us to prove that we can create a lot of value. And we've often joked that in any country, in any ecosystem, you see companies pop up out of nowhere, and we call those mistakes of nature. But really the art is translating the mistakes of nature into systemic success, so that what one did serves as the foundation for everybody else that's coming, and then their highest pursuit of success is really enabling the next generation and the next generation, and before you know it, you see massive improvement across everything. And if you couple that with a different take of all those entrepreneurs about what's their role in society, and that they are not responsible for just building companies, but for making the world around them, as much as it sounds like a cliche, but really taking that to the heart and improving the outcomes of everyone, all the children that they can touch, igniting the spark, going to schools around the country, giving people a different role model, helping in any way they can so that they translate their success not just to this bubble, which is the innovative ecosystem, and take an elitist view to the outside world. We are here, you are there, and you don't exist, but rather to try to lift all those up. Probably we'll be able to see our collective dream materialize of a much better, stronger Bulgaria that sits well and which is known for all the right reasons across the globe. It's really a hub where you see major innovation, which is a great place to visit, where people like you have a good time, not just staying and exploring, but also finding meaningful business opportunities.
Well, I definitely want to let that sit and explore a bit more about the story of Bulgaria. For the people who are not familiar with the Balkans or Bulgaria, how would you describe the culture, the people?
So, 6.5 million people according to the latest census, beautiful country, situated right in the middle of the Balkans, surrounded by Romania to the north, Greece and Turkey to the south, the Black Sea to the east, and Macedonia, northern Macedonia and Serbia on the west. Mountains, rivers, lakes, rich in many things other than oil, but still nonetheless very rich in terms of what God has given us in terms of natural resources, and full of extremely smart and hardworking people, but people who unfortunately are not terribly good at playing as a team. That's our curse. And that's the thing we have to learn how to do better and really translate what we've seen work really well in the technology community, in the innovative economy, to translate to the broader public, to see how much more we can really achieve as if we play together, if we have a much stronger bonding and sense of community amongst us all. But other than that, hospitable people, welcoming, so good place for tourism amongst everything, winter tourism, summer tourism.
Yeah.
There are many reasons why I've decided to stay here and why this place is so special to me and many other people, and we want to see it blossom.
Yeah. It's very clear to me after just 2 weeks. Wasn't meant to stay much longer, but now I've extended another 2 weeks.
Nice.
Just to experience the people a bit more, a bit deeper, and of course to see the places that you've recommended to me. If
a very rich culture. So you have artifacts from pieces of art from 6,000 years back. You have anywhere you dig, you find a Roman ruin, Byzantine ruin. It's the intersection of many cultures, many ethnicities. So all of this has created a pretty special blend of cultures and people.
Yeah.
And food's good. So.
And the food is good, definitely. If I can go into some slightly deeper questions, and I think lesser asked questions. Entrepreneurs, it's a tough life, it's a tough choice to make.
Yeah.
And often they come with certain characteristics. Instead of talking about what makes a successful entrepreneur, I actually wanted to understand your views on what could be an entrepreneur's Achilles heel.
I'd say the biggest blessing and the curse is the ego.
Mm.
It's a blessing because if you don't have it, and you're not competitive, and you're not into winning, and you're not full of yourself in the beginning, it's a little bit hard to jump into this. If you knew what you're getting into, probably you wouldn't be doing so. You have to be driven by an ego, by something that pushes you in that direction to show the world that you can do it, about accomplishment, etc. At one point, though, you have to understand that this is also your biggest enemy, because the more it's about you, the less it is about everyone else around you. So you really have to translate that desire to shine and to achieve, and to create an environment where others can shine and achieve, and where you are devoted to the big mission of the company, but with a lot more humility, that it becomes about the commitment to the vision, to the mission of the company, and to enabling all the other people to achieve it. It's not, that I'm trying to sound too smart. Jim Collins, in his book Good to Great, touched upon that, about level 5 leadership and what that means, and he spoke at length about that the difference is between level 4 and level 5 leadership is that level 5 leaders, they are super competent at running the show, but they choose not to do it for their own selfish reasons, but really they show signs of humility. All of their energy is channeled to the reaching of the company's vision and on enabling the others. It's a good book, so I'd suggest to all viewers to read it.
Yeah, I'll definitely put a link to it. And it's amazing that you answered ego, because my next question is about ego. I was at an event called the Edible Foods Summit, and where people in the food industry ecosystem go and discuss problems and solutions. And on the front door, they have a placard, a standee that says, "Check your ego here," which I thought was very apt, because often you see a lot of ego at big events like this. If there is a circumstance where the cloud of ego is not there, people can check their egos at the door. What do you think are some unpleasant truths that would really help a person if they admit to it?
I can share with you one that I found myself after removing the ego, and which was equally hard. And again, it has traces to the ego. That you are imperfect, like you understanding that you are imperfect, accepting yourself as a person, as a professional, as CEO, as whatever, that you are imperfect, and that however hard you try, you're never gonna see perfection. And it's really about knowing where you're going, what are the reasonable compromises, what are the few things where you can try not to compromise, but loving and accepting yourself the way you are. And I've seen that being pretty hard for many people who are self-aware and who are humble, and nonetheless this is a challenge for them. And that's what came immediately to mind.
Yeah, no,
it's a big battle.
That is deep, and it takes it needs some time to digest. But the first thought I have is, you having gone through that process, how has this acceptance of imperfection empowered you? What changed after that acceptance?
What changed? I guess I stopped using a lot of energy beating myself to death that I'm imperfect as father, husband, son, brother, CEO, partner, whatever. And I used it to try to change some behaviors that would make improvements in specific areas, knowing that I'll be just as bad or lacking in some others, but at least, you know, it's a known choice. So I accepted that it's the price I pay, and I just try to get better in those areas which are of primary importance to me. And I use my energy, which I would not otherwise use to like beat myself. I'd use that for something creative to make myself a little bit better. And reminding myself that if I'm a little bit better today than I was yesterday, was a good day. Sometimes you make progress, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes you don't, but as long, that's really your competition. It took me many years to figure it out, that you're not competing with the outside world. It's just, you know, the core. It's something that kind of helps you calibrate, but really the big challenge is about you competing with yourself. You tomorrow wanting to be better at something than you were yesterday, not really trying to please the world or check off on what others want to see from you and what they see as success.
I'm not sure how. I'm sure a lot of people will find that section really helpful, but whether or not that is the case, at least for me, I think I resonate a lot with trying to get to that space. And of course, I mean, it comes with experience.
It's a never-ending battle. Like I'm sharing with you some learnings, but if any of the viewers thinks that it's that I'm on my way to like the holy grail understanding, I think it's not the case. I have my dilemmas every day. I have my battles, but I'm just sharing stuff that's on my mind now.
I think I think this is a great place to wrap up. I want to ask you a few quick fire questions.
All right.
To show the human side of you. So
I eat, sleep, exercise.
So first question, beyond from eating, sleeping, and exercising, what do you do to turn off?
Basic stuff. Go walk the dog.
The dog, great.
In the park, play sports, tennis, soccer.
Amazing.
Simple things. Watch a movie with the kids and with my wife.
And if you were have to have a dinner with guests, who are 3 guests you would invite?
Interesting question. Probably Bill Gates, because he's one of the fascinating people that I can think of, who was very competitive and ruthless as he was running a company, and then became one of the biggest philanthropists in the world, and has done so many good things. So his journey is pretty interesting to me. I guess if we could resurrect somebody from the dead, it would be Andrew Carnegie. His book, The Gospel of Wealth, was one of the important books I've read in my life, because it gives you the perspective about the responsibility of well-off and successful people, and you know, as him being the father of modern philanthropy, it would be great to have a chat with him, and I guess they would have plenty to talk about with Bill Gates. And the third one is, can't remember the name of the person. It was, he's a very successful entrepreneur who created some of the first duty-free shops, and he made a fortune. He set up the Atlantic Foundation, which evolved in the General Atlantic Fund, and the person, he was one of the biggest philanthropists without anybody knowing that. And there was a court case which required one of the parties to disclose, and that's when it became apparent how much money he'd been giving to different charities. So he had given away, I think, 8 billion or so throughout his life, and he He's like very old now, and he had more or less made a commitment in like 50 years to give away everything he has, leave himself an apartment in San Francisco, a little bit of money for his final days, and that's it. And he was the inspiration, as far as I know, to Warren Buffett and Bill Gates about the giving pledge, and he was an inspiration. So I'd invite him as well, because it's you really need to learn from those people why they were doing it, how they were doing it, because getting back to the ego, they were doing it for unselfish reasons, not to shine, but rather to do good. And as we touched upon earlier, I do believe that the more successful you are, the more you have to care about the fate of others, and that all those resources that we amass, whether it's knowledge, money, power, be used for the betterment of our societies. So that's why I'd pick those three people thematically.
Yeah, that'll be amazing dinner. And final question, which is related to your answers. Philanthropy seems to be such a big part of your thought process, the art of giving.
The art of improving outcomes, not of giving, because you can give a lot and achieve nothing. So I'm very sensitive about looking at that as an investment, but not an investment that pays me off, but rather it pays off the community at large. But I look at philanthropy and giving in the same way as investment. It has to create value, it has to create an outcome, rather than just me giving money to somebody and feeling good about it. I don't think this is the right incentive.
Yeah. Which three areas of value creation would you like to focus on going forward?
Well, I told you in the beginning of our conversation, it's really education, especially amongst the younger ones, and finding means not just to fill their heads with functional knowledge, but rather things that make them better prepared for life, and for them being good citizens, which is not really covered in most of the school systems. And if you cannot be helpful to yourself and to your society, the fact that you know a lot is not terribly helpful in my view. The other one is entrepreneurship, because people who get into entrepreneurship sooner than later understand that you have to create value, otherwise nobody cares about your product, your service. So you start thinking with a lot more empathy about the people around you, and you become a much more free person. You start learning that you have to take responsibility for your actions, and this makes you so much better in everything you do. And I guess the third one would be culture, in terms of how you embody in art all of the things that really matter to society, so that you can shape with art as well the future generations, because it leaves an imprint of where we are today, and it creates a vision for a better future.
Well, this was a ride for me speaking to you. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Same here. Thanks for having me.
It's been such a pleasure.
Yeah. Take care.
Yeah.